rationalizing software and, bits, these bits being these physical things that we attributed to like free software. With that said, also there's going to be a hacker space
Mm.
at, at at this fest. That's where you can actively see physical construction of open and free ideas where people are basically going to be trying to one up themselves.
Sure, we're
These
gonna be.
and
Go ahead,
yeah,
Dory. Go ahead.
I was like these hackers, to be honest, are the kinds of guys like MacGyver. You give him a chocolate bar,
Yeah.
a paper clip, and one matchstick, and he has the ability to make a small neutron generator or something. I mean, these these guys have a knack, and they have a passion for taking and creating and reusing. They make this, now do that. That's one of the software freedoms kind of thing. They're
Totally.
going, but their goal is going to be accessibility. So
Hmm.
they're going to try to make the day-to-day things that hinder some people's lives doable, bearable,
Yeah.
kind of thing. That to me is really, really interesting. And just watching them go through the motions of thinking, concepting, designing, and creating, yeah, that should be a show unto itself.
Yeah, we're having a contest for the hackerspace guys to come up with some accessible hardware. I didn't give any sort of limitation. I want to see what these guys can come up with. I'd imagine they're gonna blow my mind away when they show up that day. But it's kind of funny how this all snowballed because a week before Bruce and I and Mike were talking, we're like, you know what? We reached out to these hackerspace guys. We haven't heard anything by such and such a date. We're just gonna have to move on to Plan B and see do something else. And like the next day, this guy emailed and he was like, "Oh, I had a question about the contest of the hackerspace." And I emailed him back and I was like, "Well, it's great you're interested, but I don't really know how this is going to go. We haven't really heard back from anyone." And this one guy was like, "Are you kidding? There's like 25 people I know coming." And I was like, "What?" And then I was like, "Well, reach out to them and let them know, what we're trying to do." And then from there, it took off. We have some like a hackerspace from Vermont coming, Southern New Hampshire. We have one from Cape Cod now coming. We have like three or four within and around Boston coming. I think there's one from Providence coming in. I think some people from New York City are coming down, and it's just like taking off like gangbusters. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I'm hoping that we're going to get Make Magazine involved, and we're hoping that they'll offer some sort of prizes or put like an ad in the magazine or do some kind of interview with someone to help promote, this accessibility hardware that we're having people, try and come up with.
Has the have the prizes for it been stated or no?
Not yet, because I'm not sure if Make's going to come through or not, and I don't know. Like, I do want to offer something. I just don't know what we'd be capable of doing.
Right.
If, we do know that we'll interview like the top 3 guys on that soapbox program with the Worcester Cable Access. That's going to
Sweet.
interview me.
Nice.
We'll have them on definitely on that show. I mean, we're going to try and do something. We just don't know exactly what yet.
Yeah.
There's even another like hardware hacking company that specifically builds hardware called Bug Labs. I've reached out to them trying to get them to participate. Maybe they'll give away some of their hardware. Maybe they'll give a cash prize. Everything's kind of up in the air as far as that goes, but something will be done. That's for sure.
It's awesome.
Well, I'll just say one word: bacon. Yeah, you'll be surprised what kind of things you'll get out of them.
I'll bring my George Foreman, throw some bacon on the grill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, to be honest, I'm a little comical. Don't be shocked if like one of the devices, because we've seen now, like 2 years ago, the fridges where you use the car beeper and you beep and the arm comes up and it throws you a beer.
Oh, totally.
Don't be shocked if they do something like that, but you hit the button and it knows what direction you are at, and then it beeps, teep, 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 and then launches it. Little bit. I mean,
launches bacon.
Bacon would be nice.
No, launch the whole pig.
Launch the whole pig. And I mean, it's really hard to say, but the sky is the limit with these kind of guys.
Right.
They like get adrenaline friggin' rushes off of creating. So it's going to be a little bit of amazing. It's going to be a little bit of, why didn't I think of that kind of thing going on? So I'm looking forward to that part.
Yeah, what's cool about the hackerspaces is they, if no one really knows what they are, they basically take over almost like old rundown mills, and these guys will get together, a group of them. Some guys will have like CNC machines, lathes, laser cutters, like anything you could possibly think of, sawzalls, saws, like whatever you could think of, and they'll all come together and they'll bring all of their equipment into one room, and they'll let everyone use the equipment to do whatever they need to do. So that way, there's no limitation. Like, oh, I wish I had this piece of machinery, I could do this. They're never short of any kind of equipment.
Is that is that what a hackerspace is?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they'll sometimes to make you pay like a $20 due a month to like help pay for the rent or whatever.
Yeah.
And like there's always basically someone there to help you. Like if you're new, someone might say, have you ever used a lathe before? Do you want me to show you? Stuff like that. And you can collaborate with guys too. There could be programmers there, guys making hardware saying, oh, I can make this hardware, but I need, someone to plug something into this to make it do that. And a programmer can say, dude, I could program that in 20 minutes. And then they'll program it, and the hardware guy make his hardware. Boom, they work together, and it's done.
Wow, that is the coolest.
Yeah,
that is and honestly, the best way I can put this is hackerspace equals clubhouse.
Totally.
I mean,
I'm gonna go see. I'm seeing if there's any near me right now.
Yeah, you should Google. I wouldn't be surprised if something comes up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I could see myself literally just hanging out. Going, that's cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I'll be like, you need a screw driver here.
Yeah, exactly. I just helped that guy.
Yeah, and like to be honest, that almost harkens back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, Steve. The needed hardware to redo I can't remember what it's called now, like the open blueprints to redo a culture kind of thing. It's the same kind of mentality. I can't think of the right word. Mentality of working together, freely exchanging ideas, creating.
Yeah. It's really cool. I'm into it.
Also, if you're listening and you're interested in participating, or maybe you can't go but you want to support the cause, we also have a supporter pack. It's $40, and if you donate the $40, you're helping us out to cover costs and whatnot. But you will get a business card sized USB drive that'll have the Northeast GNU Linux Fest logo and the URL on it, and it'll also have Triskel 5.0 pre-installed on it, so you can run it off the USB drive. And the cool thing about having that pre-installed is that's the version I worked with the project leader to help make it accessible. So if you have a blind friend or a vision impaired friend, you could totally hook them up with this, and they could try out free software and accessibility and free software just off this pen drive.
How do you mean credit card sized?
They're literally like the size of a credit card. They're like flat and the size of a credit card, but they have like a little USB at the end of it, so you can stick it into your USB drive. But I think the USB thing, you can push it back in, so then it's just like a flat credit card.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll be giving those out to the supporters, and we'll probably have some left over, so we'll get some extra ones. So if you show up and you didn't get a supporter pack or whatever, you could probably just get one that day. But if you do get a supporter pack, you'll absolutely be getting one. So
really cool.
Very cool. Now, real quick, just to touch on that one thing.
Yeah.
When the guy from Triskel had made this accessible, it is not like Project Swordfish where there's music going on in the background and he's sweating and he's sitting there for hours and hours making 3D objects float around and to fit to it. That's not how software development works.
No.
Jonathan basically just talked to this guy and said, it would be cool. Hey, if you made this accessible. And the guy was like, what do you mean? How do I do that? Am I right?
Yeah, it was literally almost that easy. I was interning at the FSF, and I was like, I know it would be cool. And I was talking to the campaign guys, and they said, you should get a hold of Ruben, because that's the project leader. And then the Triskel is, the FSF supports Triskel because it's a 100% free operating system. There's no non-free proprietary bits on it at all. And they were like, email them. And I was like, all right. I'd imagine the FSF.org email might have helped a little bit at first, but so I emailed them and I was like, hey, I'm an intern this summer. This is my name. This is what I'm doing. I'm a blind GNU Linux user, and it'd be cool if you could, make the installer accessible. And I told them about the Vinix project, and so we chatted back and forth. And I sent him a link, and then we had a mumble session. We were talking, and he was looking through the Vinix scripts to see how Vinix built their images. And he was like, I see what they did here. He was like, I wouldn't do it this way. I would do it differently because he could do it a lot cleaner. And he was like, I wish I could see you using a computer. And I said, okay. I recorded a YouTube video, put it up on YouTube, sent him a link, said, here, this is me using the computer. And we were talking while he was watching me, use the computer. He's like, this is amazing. He's like, don't think I'm stupid or whatever, but he's like, this is amazing that you can use a computer like that. And so we were talking, and he was like, all right, he was in Spain, and he was like, all right, tonight, I'm going to send you a link to an ISO. Let me know if it works. Literally that night, sent me a link, burned the ISO. It 90% worked right away. There was like two things, like the screen wasn't reading a couple of spots of the screen reader wasn't reading a couple of spots on the screen. I emailed him back, said, these two things didn't work. He emailed me back saying, okay, the next night you'll have another ISO. Next night, sent me another ISO. It worked. It 100% worked.
Wow.
And this guy, Triskel builds off of Ubuntu. And all I have to say is one guy managed to do this work in probably 24 hours.
Jeez.
Well, no. My guess is in 30 minutes.
All right, yeah. I was being, trying to be nice about it.
I would like to see that video too, by the way, since you brought it up.
Yeah, I'll get, if you go to youtube.com/frostbite systems, you'll see one of the last couple of links, like Vinix installation and Vinix tour.
Sweet.
And you'll see me installing it, and you'll see me going through the desktop to see like what it looks like, what it sounds like.
Very cool.
So, but yeah, I mean, and it kind of harkens back to what Dora was saying. If you reach out to free software people, they want to hear from you. Like I've reached out to quite a few people so far, and not once has someone said, "Dude, beat it. You're wasting my time."
Right.
They want input. If you're constructive about it and not like a jerk or whatever, they want to hear it. They want their software to be great. They want it to, they want it to do what you want it to do. So it's just reach out to these people. They will, you will hear back from them. Good
advice. Sounds cool, man. Good job.
Yeah. And I'll just say, maybe that guy did have, techno music going through his head as he was typing it, but it wasn't like, he needed to for it to work.
But again, also, he was just like, never thought of that.
Right.
Like when I brought it up to him, he was like, you know what? I never thought of that. And he made it a way so it wasn't intrusive to someone that didn't depend on the technology. So when you burn the ISO, you drop it in the CD, or if you run it off that pen drive, the first screen, it asks you to choose your language. If you don't choose your language, it automatically boots into a live session with Orca running, and then a blind person can use it. But if you choose your language at that screen, a person that can see that menu and chooses their language never even knows there's an accessible installer.
Wow, that's really cool.
Right. To me, that's simple common sense genius. If the people at Apple or at Microsoft had to come up with a solution, let me tell you something. It would probably cost them $30,000 to think of something up, and it would suck. I mean, this guy just used common sense. And to me, that's the essence of hacking. If you go look at the real definition of hacking and hackers, it developed from MIT model train hobbyist group, to where they would make the train do things it wasn't intended to do, and make the sets merge together and do things one is supposed to do. And one guy would say to the other guy, "That's a good hack."
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Rubin basically took things that already existed, and just said, and let me think of a common sense way to make these interact and to make these flow. And it's seamless. I mean, that is the essence of hacking. So Rubin gets unbelievable props for using common sense, to do something, and for being responsive. And I did run that distro for a good 3-4 months, and I gotta say, everything I needed to run in it ran good.
Yeah, like you said, he built off technology that was already in there. Ubuntu